Alright, and welcome to Subtracting Rational Expressions. Now this is going to be a relatively tricky problem, alright, and I say relatively tricky problem for a couple things. Firstly, we have some negatives, and secondly, we're going to have to do some factoring with grouping. What I think we should probably do, because we know that step one is that we will always want to factor. Let's actually go ahead and tackle the difficult factoring by grouping first. So let's take this 4x squared plus x minus 3, and let's try and figure this out. So how do you do factoring by grouping? Well, we do 4 times negative 3, or aka a times c. 4 times negative 3 is negative 12, and I can actually split that up into two things that add up to be a positive 1. By the way, that would be positive 4 and negative 3. So we're kind of lucky, like this is not a difficult one, because it's very obvious to see, hey, here's 4x squared, here's negative 3, and this positive 4 should obviously go with the 4, and it's an x because we're splitting up an x term. And over here we have a negative 3, goes with our negative 3. That's pretty easy. Okay, so we put this into our parentheses. We know that we want to factor out our leading, or we're going to factor out our greatest common factor. In this case, both of these can give up a 4, and both of these can give up an x. So let's factor out 4x. Parentheses. Okay, when we do that, well, 4x squared divided by 4x is just x. 4x divided by 4x is 1. Okay, moving on. Here, we know that this can give up a negative 3, and that can give up a negative 3. Two things to note. One, the leading term was negative, so we have to factor out a negative. And two, there's no x term right here, so you can't factor out an x. Okay, well, not too bad. And let's see here, negative 3x divided by negative 3 is x, and negative 3 divided by negative 3 is 1. We know that because those two factors are the same, we have done our factoring correctly. So we factor out our x plus 1, and whenever this factors out of both of these, the leftovers are going to be, I'll just use one color here, they're going to be 4x minus 3. Okay, so with that in mind, let's go ahead and start writing our problem. We have this, we have negative 2x squared over, and here this splits up into our x plus 1 and our 4x minus 3. Okay, and now that I have this, I'm actually going to erase everything. So if you're still taking notes, I would pause the video. Let's see here. I'll just go ahead and erase all of that. Okay. Now, one thing to note here is that we actually have this minus sign. So let's put this minus sign right here, and we can extend that 6x, and we can factor that pretty easy. Let's check it out. So, we have an x and an x, and by the way, I know that x plus 2x plus 1 is really x plus 1, and I'll use a different color here, x plus 1. Oh, let's do the whole thing in a different color. Okay, and now I can actually look back at this first one and say, you know what, 4x minus 3 is actually not in the other denominator. So you can see here in these two different colors, these are the factors that I'm actually missing for each other. So what are we going to do? Well, we want to take our left-hand fraction and we multiply the bottom by x plus 1, and we'll multiply the top by x plus 1. Okay, what's that going to look like? Let's see here. We got negative 2x squared because I took this minus and I moved it up here. Okay, so negative 2x squared times x is negative 2x cubed. Negative 2x squared times 1 is negative 2x squared. That's pretty easy. And on the bottom, of course, we have our x plus 1, our 4x minus 3, and our x plus 1. Okay, now right over here, what I'm going to do is actually write a plus sign. I'm going to write a plus sign. And you always, this is the trickiest part about this, you want to take this negative and you want to put it with that single term. You want to put the negative with the top number. Okay, and so I know the one thing that I'm missing over here is a 4x minus 3, which I'll be multiplying the top by. Okay, now that I've recognized that that's actually a negative number, well, negative 6x times 4 is negative 24x squared, and negative 6x times negative 3 is plus 18x. Awesome. Okay, on the bottom, of course, we have our same factors, x plus 1, 4x minus 3, and an x plus 1. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to erase things so I can combine them, and I would encourage you to pause the video if you need to. Okay, for step number 2, let's go ahead and combine. Okay, we have a negative 2x cubed, and there's no more x cubed, so I write negative 2x cubed. Okay, continuing on, let's see here, we have a negative 2x squared and a negative 24x squared, which becomes negative 26x squared. And let's see, there's no other x, so I just put plus 18x. For the record here, that is a nothing, and let's just go ahead and clean that up. Okay, alright, nice and neat. Okay, on the bottom, of course, we have our x plus 1, and I'm actually going to do something cool here. We have x plus 1, we have it there twice, so let's write it as x plus 1 squared and 4x minus 3. Now, the last thing that we want to do is we want to take this and we want to figure out what x cannot be. So remember, no matter how many times the factors are there, you actually only have to test it out once. So x plus 1 is here twice. We'll just do x plus 1 equals 0, and clearly x cannot equal negative 1. Alright, let's use our red. We have this 4x minus 3. We set 4x minus 3 equal to 0, plus 3, plus 3. We have 4x is equal to 3, and we divide both sides by 4, and we get x cannot equal 3 over 4. Okay, and that is how you do that. It's not that bad. Alright, y'all. Good luck on these operations, and I'll catch y'all in our next video series.